Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you find this information entertaining, interesting, or otherwise worthwhile, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It's my goal through every video that I do to be as respectful of your time as possible. As a note, I'm not including predictions from Zillow or Redfin in any of my reviews or projections. Briefly, my name is John Angell. I've been selling real estate in East Dallas since 2003, so this is my 23rd year. So the format of this is it's going to be a review of the national market from 2025 and before, and then a projection to 2026, and then I will go to DFW, a review of 2025 and before, and projections on to 2026. So without further ado, let's review 2025 and before. So before going on to the national real estate market, I really need to visit the national economy in general. And what can be said about the U.S. economy in 2025? Well, if you're an optimist, it was resilient. There were many respected economists out there who predicted we were going to go into a recession, and it never happened. We withstood drastic policy changes from one administration to the next. We withstood tariffs, international and domestic drama, and the U.S. economy just persevered and moved forward. Now, the GDP, gross domestic product, grew 2.4%. That is considered quite good for a first world economy. That falls in line with what's called the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Now, you can imagine a lot of people out there were hoping 4, 5, 6%. That's not necessarily all good. There's some great things that come from a superheated economy. There are some very bad things like inflation. We've had plenty of inflation for the rest of our lives. Unemployment did rise from 4.0 to 4.4%. Now, that's still considered by the Fed to be full employment. I don't really understand why that's considered full employment, but they're smarter than me. Wage growth did outpace inflation, and really that is the biggest thing that we're going to need to have for many, many years, is for wage growth to outpace inflation. Prices are not just going to suddenly drop. Certain things can't. Energy prices can drop, but the cost of food and other things, they just are what they are. Wages are going to have to catch up with them. Wage growth was 3.3 to 4.3%, 3.3 for the private sector, 4.3% for the public sector. Now, public sector did have their jobs cut by 14%, but they ended up getting paid more, which is kind of interesting. Inflation was down at 2.7%. Now, 2% is considered to be ideal by the Federal Reserve. And again, they're smarter than me. I have no idea why that number is a thing, but 2.7%, that's still too high, but it's a lot better than it was in previous years. Now, if you can remember back to April, May, and June, hyperinflation was predicted with the advent of tariffs, and that never really happened. So on to the real estate market of 2025. Well, it was kind of not great. It was very much a continuation of the great stay of 2024, where people just sat in their homes. They would put properties on the market. They wouldn't get the prices that they want, and they would just take it off. A lot of people were predicting a mass correction in prices. It never really happened. Now, last year is characterized by high prices, high interest rates, and low sales volume. There were 4.1 million sales in 2025. 5.2 million is the norm. So that's about 80% of what would be considered a normal and healthy market. And the problem with this was affordability. Interest rates have definitely taken a little bit of a dip, and they're continuing. But for homes to be more affordable, it's not going to take a massive price correction. It's just going to take rates going down quite a bit. We had a bad spring, but it actually improved over the course of time. We had a much better July and August than we thought. And this last December was actually surprisingly good too. Now, normally April and May are when the market really gets started. This year was a little bit later. Median sales prices rose 1.4% to 414,400, which is counter to what a lot of people thought. Again, it was supposed to be a correction and we didn't have it. Mortgage rates finally dropped. They were around 7% at this time last year. They moved all the way down to around 6%. Now, one of the big statistics that I look at besides the Housing Affordability Index is the median first-time home buyer age. Now, in years of old, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, people as first-time buyers. Now, this is defined as somebody who has not owned a home for 5 years. So it's not just truly the first-time buyers. It's somebody who's first getting into the market. Back in the 80s, 90s, it was in the early to mid-20s. People were getting homes early. They were getting married, starting families, etc. Last year, it was all the way up to 40, which is, it's bad on many, many levels. It's bad for the country. It's bad for society in general. Now, it's to be hoped that that's going to go down. It was actually 38 the year before, and when I bought in 2007, I want to say it was around 32, but it's just something that really has to go down. And with that said, let's move on to predictions for 2026 in the national market. Predictions for the US market. So it is predicted that the US GDP will continue to grow between 2 and 2.5%, which is again solid. It's the Goldilocks zone. It's where we want to be. Everybody wants to think we want 5 or 6%. That is a pretty heated economy, and it certainly has its upside, but it has its downsides too. Now, as far as employment goes, AI is looming over so much of the economy right now. There are a lot of people saying that a third of jobs are going to disappear in the next 10 years, and a lot of people are saying this is just a flash in the pan. But one thing is for certain, it's here to stay, and it's going to really change the way we do business. It's going to change the way we live our lives, and that's the only prediction I'm going to make on this. So on to housing. What does that mean? Well, it's going to be a recovery year. Take 3, because 2024 was supposed to be a recovery year. 2025 was supposed to be a big recovery year. And now, darn it, they are all saying 2026 is going to be the big recovery year. So what do they mean by that? 6 to 14% increase in sales volume. Now, that's a pretty big number. 14% was predicted by Lawrence Yun. He's NAR's chief economist. He's fantastic. I have never known him to be wrong, which would be simply incredible. It would be an unbelievable rebound for the real estate market. Prices should rise between 1% and 4%. Now remember, this is national. Therefore, what's good in Montana is not good in New York, is not good in California, is not good in Alabama. So that's just a 1,000-mile overhead view of the way properties will appreciate. Wages are going to continue to outpace inflation. And again, we need many more years of wages outpacing inflation before we can catch up with the enormous cost of living increases of 2021 to 2023. Interest rates should hover. Now, this depends on if there are going to be any more Fed rate cuts. There may not be for a while. Rates, the way they are right now with the spreads, they could go as low as 5.75, but swing up as high as 6.25, just depending on a few factors. Now, if it swings below 6, then it's a really good time to lock a mortgage. The days of trajectorying downward and being able to brag to your friends that you got a 3.25% when they got a 3.5, those are over. Just go with what works for you when it works for you, and if it goes sub 6, it may be the time for you. Median home buyer age should hopefully drop to around 38 years old. Again, we got a long ways to go before that's 23 again, and I don't know if we're ever going to be at 23 again. It's going to take a completely rewritten economy for that to happen, and hey, maybe AI will do it. I don't know. I'm not an expert at it, but I've heard some really funky predictions. But that is it for the U.S. market. Let's go on to the DFW market, looking back 2025. What is there more to say about the DFW economy than it is an absolute powerhouse for the entire nation? It has an incredibly broad and diverse range of industries. It has, I believe there's no one industry that accounts for more than 15% of the economy itself, and that goes from energy to technology, defense, financial services, logistics, and healthcare. DFW job growth did slow, however. Now, Dallas had the most job growth between 2019 and 2025 in the entire country. That was 13.6%. But last year, it was only a growth of 0.4%. So that was an incredible drop-off. Basically, very few jobs were created in the last 12 months. What did that mean? It meant a pretty gosh darn slow real estate market. It was a really rough real estate market in Dallas in 2024. They predicted it would get better in 2025. It really didn't get that much better. Sales volume did rise 1.8%. Median prices, now this is interesting, median prices did drop 1.8% year over year from 2024 to 2025. It was higher when you compared December of 2024 with December of 2025. It was considerably higher, but in the aggregate, it was a drop of 1.8%. Now, that is, if you're an optimist, that is a healthy adjustment without there being a crash. And again, you see so many YouTubers with this face as their thumbnail, and it says Dallas real estate market crashes. I'm not going to do that to you guys. It's silly. The real estate market crash, it's not coming. Now, bear in mind that is over the entire DFW area. Just like the national market, you can't compare California to New York. You can't really compare downtown Dallas to Wiley and Saxe. They all have their completely different days on market. They have their different prices. They're just completely different markets. This is just 1,000 miles overhead. Wages grew in DFW 4.2%, which is which is absolutely fantastic. Compare that to a 2.4% inflation, which is lower than the national average. Now, DFW has a little bit of an advantage because we have, apparently the food here is cheaper. I don't really see that when I go to Kroger, but energy is also a bit cheaper here when compared to certain other states that I won't mention. So 4.2 to 2.4% is outstanding. We need several more years. We probably need 5 or 6 more years of that before our paychecks match the cost of groceries, the cost of pretty much everything except for energy, which has really been going down. If there was one really great thing that I see outside of a lot of the typical numbers, it's the housing affordability index improved really significantly over the last 18 months. So a 100 rating means that the median household income can afford the median home. That's a pretty nice balance. Dallas used to be super duper affordable. It was over 200, I believe, in 2016, so you could afford twice the median priced home. That got all the way down into the 70s a couple of years ago when interest rates spiked up to 9 and home prices had not ever so slightly readjusted. It was just, housing was just pretty much unaffordable for most people. So that has really, really improved. It's at a 97 as of the recording of this video. Let's get it up over 100, hopefully. As rates continue to go down, that should be the case. Okay, so on to bold predictions for 2026 for the DFW market. So going into 2026, all eyes are on Dallas. Dallas used to be the poster boy for job growth, for drawing in big businesses, and it really, really slowed down in the last couple of years. So there's a lot of speculation on what's going to happen to DFW. I am personally interested for obvious reasons. Looking ahead for the DFW market is Y'all Street, aka the Texas Stock Exchange. It launches in 2026. Now that is going to bring a lot of interest to Dallas. It's potentially going to be bringing a lot of jobs, and it's going to potentially be bringing a lot of money. We will see what happens. It'll be really interesting to see what the Texas Stock Exchange does. In 20 years, it may have amounted to nothing, but it sounds like it's really going to do something at least. So unemployment is going to remain really pretty low. It shouldn't go any higher than 4.5%. So what does this mean for the real estate market? For the third year in a row, they are predicting a solid recovery. Sales volume should be going up between 5 and 10%. And December was a really, really nice bump that we didn't expect. So if the first few months of 2026 or anything like that, then it's going to be really, really positive. But again, we've been saying this for 2 years now. Sales prices are supposed to go up between 1.5 to 4%. Again, I'm skeptical. I hope it's right, but it's going to be a lot better than the previous years in 2024 and 2025. Now, all real estate is local. There are some markets in DFW that have maintained fantastic growth, and you have a lot of newer construction communities that are specific on the perimeter of DFW. I think those are going to still be a little bit rough. They've been going down in value, and they may turn around. It's quite possible, but I think that they're still going to suffer a little bit. So in the aggregate, we're going to see sales prices go up 1.5 to 4%, but some areas it may be higher, and some areas it may be lower. Well, y'all, that's it. I really hope this has been worth your while. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and have a wonderful 2026. Call me if you need anything.